the recent heresy that Benedict XVI uttered on the Orthodox. Benedict XVI, as we posted on our website, he recently, in a joint ecumenical Vespers service with Protestants and Schismatics, in which he took active part in non-Catholic worship, which is condemned by Pope Pius XI, he actually said that we've come to know and to love the Orthodox Church. Now, this is quite a heresy, considering that the Orthodox Church is a schismatic and heretical sect which rejects the papacy, Vatican I, the Council of Trent, the last 13 councils of the Church. And he's saying that he not only loves the members of the Church, he loves the Orthodox Church itself. And this is just incredible, because what could be more heretical than saying that you love a non-Catholic and schismatic sect? And what's interesting is that recently a publishing group in California sent out a flyer in which they're advertising for some of their new material. And one of the items was an attack on sedevacantism and those who would, reject the post-conciliar church as a non-Catholic sect and the post-conciliar anti-popes as not true popes. And it says in here, the sedevacantists who hold that the Mass is invalid, the sacraments are invalid, and the priests administering the sacraments were not properly ordained. What is a lay person to make of all this cacophony of conflicting ideas, leading to isolation and despair? And they're saying that this thing they're offering makes sense of it all, and gives clear evidence of the flawed reasoning of those who would like to see you join them outside the church, out of which there is neither salvation, holiness, nor real happiness. And this is what is being promoted by this so-called traditionalist publishing house in California. And we really have to ask them, are they insane? They're saying that people who reject Benedict XVI as a heretic are outside the church, when Benedict XVI is saying that he loves the Orthodox Church. He loves the schismatic sect. I mean, these people are just piling damnation on themselves. I mean, they couldn't be more condemned out of their own mouths. By condemning those who would reject this guy as a schismatic, what about Benedict XVI? He's saying he loves the entire schismatic church. Are these people brain dead? No, they're just soul dead.
Yeah.
They're just complete liars. And it's really an outrage. And someone like this is definitely been ipso facto excommunicated from the Catholic Church. No doubt about it. This person's seen the evidence, rejects it, holds that those who don't adhere to these manifestly heretical, non-Catholic anti-popes are outside the church. And they don't say that Benedict XVI, even though he's saying he loves the whole schismatic church, is even a heretic who's outside the church. It's just an outrage. And that really brings us to, someone wrote us an email asking us about the book by Peter Veer or Very. I'm not sure how you pronounce the heretic
and
name.
just before you mention that also, as far as this organization, one of the problems is that some of these people may realize, if they recognize the facts and accept the true reality of what's happening, that these guys are heretics and therefore not popes, they're not going to be able to sell that much stuff. See, this is an organization that just sells tons of stuff. It's a business. And so therefore, they're going to sell all kinds of stuff. And so if you really accept the full truth of what's happening out there, you can only promote the pure truth. You can't just have all kinds of stuff that you sell, this stuff, that stuff, so people are basically confused and they're getting truth mixed with error. That's what a lot of people do, and it costs them their souls.
And they think that there's no, they don't realize that when they get into the avenue of distributing materials on the Catholic faith and instructing people on what they must believe, that their level of culpability rises. And so they have to be that much more solicitous for what they're going to be putting out. And they think, as he was just saying, that they can just, this is somewhat neat, I'm going to sell this, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And someone asked us about the book by Patrick Madrid and Peter Veer or Very, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce his name, More Catholic Than the Pope. This is a book against traditionalism. What we think of this. I've quickly gone through the book. basically the whole book is about the Society of St. Pius X and how they don't like the Society of St. Pius X. It doesn't have much of anything of substance regarding the heresies of the post-conciliar church or their responses to those who would say that the post-conciliar church is heretical. But what's very interesting is, again, and it ties into what we're talking about now, about how Benedict XVI just said he loves the schismatic church, that on page 130 of that book, Patrick Madrid and Peter Very say, in Archbishop Lefebvre having consecrated these bishops, and the 4 men he illicitly ordained as bishops plunged themselves headlong into schism. So they're saying here, bluntly, clearly, that the Society of St. Pius X, for having Archbishop Lefebvre and his 4 bishops, and it indicates elsewhere that the followers of the Society of St. Pius X are in schism, they're in schism for
doing consecrations of bishops in the traditional rite on, I think it was June 30th, 1988. And within 72 hours, they were excommunicated by John Paul II, showing again that the only religion that isn't tolerated by the post-Vatican II Church is traditional Catholicism. Everything else is accepted. Every religion's endorsed except for traditional Catholicism. You want traditional rites to be maintained and perpetuated, you're going to be excommunicated immediately.
And so it's so outrageous and ridiculous and hypocritical that they declare that the group like the Society of St. Pius X, from their standpoint, is in schism. Meanwhile, Benedict XVI is praising the whole schismatic sect again and again. And what's amazing about this is, in his book, Pope Fiction, Patrick Madrid, who was also the co-author of that other book we're referring to, he says on page 152, it's really interesting, he said he's discussing an argument made by the Eastern schismatics who call themselves Orthodox. And he says, quote, "This argument is sometimes raised by our Eastern Orthodox brethren." So Patrick Madrid calling the members of the schismatic church our Eastern Orthodox brethren. But in the same book, on page 274, referring to a sedevacantist, he says, quote, "A position paper put out by one schismatic group of Marian sedevacantist priests put it more starkly." And then he quotes something. So he's clearly saying on page 274 that the sedevacantist priests are schismatics. Meanwhile, on page 152, he says that the Eastern Orthodox are brethren. This just shows you how evil these guys are. And these are the type of individuals who try to explain away every heresy of the post-Vatican II sect. I mean, they're so bad-willed and blinded that they won't even come to denounce like Assisi as apostasy, where John Paul II arranged for the heads of false religions to worship false gods. I mean, they're not even at the point where they're rejecting this as novelty and a revolution against Catholic teaching.
I mean, and these people, if they honestly look at the facts, they'll see that, what they're publishing here, what they're promoting, is a total lie. They're calling a group that would claim to hold all of Catholic teaching a schismatic group, or a schismatic priest in the case of a priest. And they're calling a formally schismatic sect a group that says they don't accept the last 13 councils of the Church. They don't accept papal infallibility.
They constantly carry on independent.
I mean, it's just basically like a Protestant church that has valid sacraments. They say that they're our brothers. I mean, it's so evil.
Yeah, so
and so they're just liars. And so they just basically, they take the mark of the beast, really. They sell their souls out, because if they regarded these, quote, schismatic groups that the post-Vatican II Church regards as schismatics, these independent sedevacantist groups, for example, if they called them brothers, that may not, be too pleasing to the ears of the Novus Ordo Church. So they just say that they're schismatics, but the open schismatic group doesn't even claim to be Catholic. They're our brothers because John Paul II regards them as our brothers. John Paul II gives them relics of saints. John Paul II gives them donations, including a $100,000 donation to one schismatic church. John Paul II was at the laying of the foundation stone of these schismatic churches. So they just accept the lie to keep their career going and for whatever other reasons. But the bottom line is that it will cost them their salvation if they don't change their position on this issue.